Welcome back to the Federal Executive Forum on Federal News Network. We're talking about cybersecurity and Department of Defense and Department of Homeland Security. And we're just getting into lessons learned. Haman, I want to throw it over to you at Department of Homeland Security. Give us some lessons learned, maybe pluses and minuses as you're on this journey of trying to make sure that you harden that environment in the ever-changing environment. What are you learning?
Yeah, Luke, thank you for asking. So, we talked about supply chain and zero trust already. So, Luke, as you're familiar with DHS, right? I truly believe that the successes that we've had and kind of the path where we are going for your cybersecurity and IT initiatives for the enterprise is really, a unified effort. It has to be, right? And I imagine this is the case for other large organizations as well. One of the things I would say is, you can purchase all sort of tools, right? But if they're not implemented effectively, and if they're not providing you with key information that's needed to make educated risk-based decisions, then, they're just another shiny object that's, it's not serving any purpose. So that's one of the lessons that I would say is, communication and collaboration is really key when it comes to that, especially when we're looking at this enterprise-wide initiative with multiple components. And I always say, Luke, that complexity of the Department of Homeland Security is really the strength of the department. We work closely with components for all major cybersecurity initiatives, which is really important as we are trying to further harden and improve our security posture for the department. And through a comprehensive and collaborative approach, we ensure that operators and employees have the necessary cybersecurity tools, resources, and authorities to execute the mission and defend against threats. So we talked about partnership and collaboration and communication as really, I believe that's really a good lesson learned. Also, I think key to success when it comes to these large IT initiatives and implementing cyber. We partner with components like I mentioned, but I talked a little bit about the partnership with and collaboration with CISA. I think that's really important because I think as we look at federal government and the role of CISA and DHS itself, as we're collaborating with other agencies and we're sharing information, that's really helping, I think, not just DHS, but also other agencies, I believe, to really build a common understanding of cyber threats that can empower, private sector network defenders, the critical infrastructure owners and operators, and then government partners as well to improve the resilience and integrity of the national critical functions.
100%. And love to see that partnership with CISA and the other agencies and with the DoD community as well. Martin, how about at Verizon? Top lesson learned that you've discovered, plus or minus?
One lesson learned that's been really critical. I think the tendency when you think about cyber is to think technology and to think process. But in my experience, it's actually most impactful to double down on the people side of cyber. That includes stakeholder management, really at all levels of the organization. Cyber should be a part of business governing councils. It should be a part of IT transformation plans. It should be part of the product development life cycle. And every single person in the company or in the agency should know beyond the shadow of a doubt that cyber is their responsibility because it's everyone's responsibility. So when you think about how to accomplish this level of integration and how to get a seat at the right tables, that's through people and that's through stakeholder management. So there's simply no substitute for it.
100%. I always say that every employee needs to be a cyber patriot. Freddie, how about at DIA? Top lesson learned for you guys?
For us was the value of our vendor partners after acquisition. It's very easy to acquire a solution or capability, deploy it, make it operational, and depend on your own personnel to maintain it and utilize it the way it's supposed to be utilized. But our vendor partners, we have found, have come in and willingly volunteered to help us to make sure that those capabilities are tuned correctly, that we're fully utilizing it to the full extent possible, and opening our eyes to areas that we were probably missing. So this is what we've learned this past year, especially with everything that's going on, is the value of our vendor partners.
Right, and having that close partnership. Nobody has a lock on all the great ideas and the emerging ideas, right? Jim, how about over at Fortinet? Lessons learned as you reflect back on what you all are seeing across the environment.
So Luke, I would actually build on Freddie's comment, and I say this is, putting on my former federal executive hat, it's avoiding the temptation to think your problems are unique, because I think it's been brought out in this conversation, from AI to zero trust, there are viable commercial approaches to this. So my big lesson learned is don't reinvent the wheel. I still talk to federal partners who say, hey, I need to go build an AI algorithm. And I go, wait, have you first looked to see what's out there in the commercial space that you could potentially modify? But avoid this temptation to say, well, my problem is unique and singular, and therefore I need to go build my own solution. That's a last resort, not a first resort.
Sure. And that's, when your head's down, you sometimes you have a tendency to do that perhaps, but yeah, obviously I think everyone recognizes there's a community out there, and that there's no typically unique situations that haven't been solved or are attempting to be solved, et cetera. And I think that's really important. Well, we have about 12 minutes left, and we always like to talk about, what's it going to look like in the future? Perhaps over the horizon. Matt, I'm going to start with you at Illumio, and just paint a picture. What's it look like? What can we expect to see over the course of the next 18 months, 2 years?
The first thing I think is going to be a transformative mindset in our partners in the government. Very frequently when I see, architectures, it's still based on detection technologies. And I think one of the things that we have learned in the last, year plus is that detection will ultimately failure. The offenders, the offense, the other side needs to get it right once, where we need to get detection right every single time. So I think there's going to be a mindset changed about, where the defense needs to reside. That $9 billion in spending that's going to be unlocked can't be about doing things the exact same way that we've been doing them, because clearly the offense is going to get it right once, and then we have our problems like the one that we had recently with Sunburst. So I think the biggest challenge is going to be a mindset changed. And if it's not just detection, our defenses need to be modified to basically prevent and assume breach at any given point. And there's an emerging technology in the private sector called microsegmentation, which compartmentalizes those assets in the data center. And the whole idea of zero trust is to do it in a way using what you already have. So rather than buying more infrastructure and tapping into that $9 billion, it would never solve the $9 billion is not enough network infrastructure to be purchased to do it. Why not use what you already have to get to microsegmentation and assume breach? So there's gonna be a lot of proselytizing that happens. And my goal, my sole vision, is that every single time a new mission, a new cyber mission is adopted, or any new application is adopted by the federal government, instead of being in an open network, that it gets launched with a compartment around it, a microsegment around it, such that if anything is breached, it can't move laterally within the environment, and without having to redo an entire network. That's really the focus of what I'm trying to get done in the next year.
Fantastic. Again, trying to protect that blast zone. And just for the record, that's a proposed $9 billion at this point. So we'll see where they end up on that. Martin, how about over at Verizon? What's that going to look like? You talked about 5G. What can we expect over the next 18 months, 2 years?
Yeah, we all know what a challenging and complex issue cyber is, but I really do believe the future is bright for a number of reasons. I think back, it was not that long ago that cyber was considered a technology issue to be addressed by just the IT team, just the security team. It's easy to forget, but think about how far we've come. The vast majority of government leaders and business leaders today are keenly aware that cyber is a business risk that can impact reputation and financial performance, customer relationships, and ultimately the ability to successfully deliver on missions. And more, that executive support is translating into a resilience approach to managing cyber risk. So I'm encouraged by that executive support, coupled with the promise of new strategies and technologies for defense, from new innovative protective solutions to the continued advancement of detection and response capabilities powered by AI and ML, powered by 5G, to new security paradigms like zero trust networking and software-defined perimeters. I think that's what really will lead the way. But to be clear, we have a great deal of work to do to drive to that future. And as I mentioned earlier, cyber is an ecosystem issue. The only way that we'll truly get out in front is if we collectively raise the bar across governments and other public sector organizations and companies around the world. So Verizon's obviously committed to that outcome, both in terms of our own internal cyber program, as well as our portfolio of security solutions and thought leadership that we offer to protect and defend and enable our customers.
And it really is a corporate issue. And I was really pleased to see, and I know others were, that OMB really sort of brought the agency heads into the forefold of being aware of the cyber dynamics and making sure that they're directly responsible for that. Jim, how about at Fortinet? What's it look like over the next 18 months from your crystal ball?
Luke, I'm bullish on the transformative impact of AI ML driven security automation. You know, we talk about cybersecurity is hard because of the growing attack surface. Yes, but if you instrument that surface and the instrumentation of sensors that generate data that AI can make sense of, you know what is happening. And as a former attacker, we were not invisible cyber ninjas. We would try and fail before we would succeed. So if you can spotlight even the failures, figure out what they're doing and block it everywhere, that's a game changer. And that's now where we are headed as an industry in technology. And the second point I'm bullish on is the growing recognition that no one can solve this alone, that public-private partnership is key to doing this. So I think there'll be, we've talked about the supply chain issue, and it's, you're accepting third-party risks. So I think collectively, we're going to think through, how do we develop these capabilities? How do we deploy these tools across industry and in government, and then more information sharing? And I'm heartened there by the Solarium Commission talked about securing the IT infrastructure, greater public-private partnership, more information sharing. So I think there's a lot that over the next 18 months will push us in this direction.
Fantastic, and we certainly look forward to it. Freddie, you talked about a lot of different things. What's it look like in 18 months, 2 years? Does JWICS look the same as it does today, or is what changes? What can we expect to see in a couple of years?
Actually, JWICS is going to be changing. It's a complete modernization vision that we have.
Wow.
And strategy to completely modernize JWICS, which includes, as many have mentioned here, going to a zero trust architecture. It's a big endeavor. It's a big project, probably multi-year. But that's basically our CIO strategy going forward. We just have to modernize JWICS because if we don't, then it won't serve the workforce and those that need it down the road into the future. So it's very important as we move forward.
Happy to hear that. It's very key. I know JWICS has been around a long time, and it's always promising to see that it's evolving and making sure that it's keeping up with the what's required of the mission. Hemant, how about at Department of Homeland Security? A whole lot of stuff going on there. What's the environment look like in 2 years? You've got a lot of stuff in the job jar over there. What can we expect to see in a couple of years?
Sure, Luke. So, as we know, and I think other panel member touched on this as well, right? IT and it is evolving, right? It continues to evolve in more, both predictable way and somewhat, unexpected ways as well. So, as much as we would like to say, our goal is always to stay ahead of the bad guys, right, and defend against the threats. But look, the bad guys don't take this, pandemic break, right? Actually, matter of fact, they look at, to take advantage of these type of opportunities, right? And I'm personally proud of, the great work that, our teams have done to continue keeping it secure. Now, look, as federal government is concerned, we need to continue to ensure that we have hardened infrastructure in place with security baked in. We talked about it already several times, right? And it really needs to be baked into all our processes, from users to implementing new solutions, right? And it's important to ensure that the right continuous monitoring is being performed of our cybersecurity posture. One of the things to that effect is to continue implementing cybersecurity in the acquisition lifecycle framework. Is really important to ensure that the cybersecurity threat analysis and the risk management activities are really initiated early on when we talked about being baked in, and they're integrated all the way through the lifecycle processes. I often say early implementation of cybersecurity is really key to building cyber resilience and to newly acquired capabilities. Lastly, I would say is, we need to continue automating and implementing our cybersecurity detection and protection mechanisms, along with the adoption of, zero trust security model we just talked about, to continue the mission success. And Luke, as you know, at DHS, through continuous scanning, intrusion prevention, vulnerability assessments, we are really taking timely and appropriate risk-based actions to defend the network. And it's allowing us to move with the speed and agility that's comparable to our adversaries and increase the time and cost for malicious actors to conduct successful attacks. We continue to engage component senior leaderships in IT and security experts to implement these capabilities effectively to enhance the cybersecurity posture. So I really feel that as long as we keep doing this and keep maturing that model, that it does give us the best opportunity to be successful in carrying out our mission and staying ahead of the bad guys.
Yeah, it seems that you're really doubling down on trying to make sure that you try to avoid a situation, but then if you're in a situation, that you're really in a position to respond quickly to that situation, which quite frankly is, I think, something that Ron, you had talked about. What does it look like over the next couple of years? You've got 365 completely rolled out. You've got your new command up and running over there. What do you think that operating environment looks like for you all in the next couple of years?
Well, absolutely, as we're moving to embrace on our journey for zero trust and Office 365 and other things. But one thing I want to highlight is it's really about partnering and leveraging with commercial industry of how we can do the capabilities. And so both the Army and the Air Force are running a series of pilots. It's called Enterprise IT as a Service, where we are really looking at how can industry deliver network as a service, end user services, and compute and storage. And so we are running a series of pilots, and our three key vendors, although they have many other industry partners behind that, Verizon, AT&T, and Microsoft. And we started last year with each have an initial base, an Army base where they're doing this complete suite of capability. And this is a series of pilots for us over the next 2 years for us to determine how can we leverage the capability capacity of industry, because I think all federal executives know the way we do appropriations and contracting makes it very difficult to stay up with the speed of technology and the ever-changing adversarial threat. And so industry does things very well. How can we leverage that? So I would tell you in 24 months, we would be at a decision point to say, what have we learned from those pilots? And how can we use better in the partnership with industry moving forward?
That's fantastic. So you're really talking about acquiring modern technology and acquiring it in a very modern way, if you will. Being that it'd be more of a sort of a service base, continuing to get the most current technology as you're buying those services. That's a great way to wrap up the show. I'd like to thank today's guests for taking the time out of their busy schedules to join us for this program. And I'd like to thank the sponsors for supporting this show. I'd like to thank the good people here at Federal News Network that make our program so successful and enjoyable. And most of all, I'd like to thank you, the listening audience out there that tune in every month. You're listening to the Federal Executive Forum, part of the Federal News Network.